Hello, everybody. Bob Oxley here. It's time for tips, topics, issues, and positions. And today's topic is going to be on public safety, in particular here at Dixie State University. And what's going on here in the last couple is getting that. What do we have at Dixie State?
And the short answer is we have 6 full-time sworn police officers. And then we also contract with outside agency officers to help us. But as a department, Dixie State's police department is a state certified police agency, meaning that every sworn police officer here on campus has statewide police powers.
Oh.
So our officers are certified through the state of Utah as police officers. They are armed. They do have arrest powers, and they can conduct police investigations that can take us throughout the state.
Wow. I didn't know any of that.
Right.
Thank you. And we are growing.
We are.
Yeah.
And we're having constant communication with President Williams and General Counsel DeWaggio Hicks and all the people that help us make determinations and discussions as how we progress and provide better public safety to our community.
Okay. Your police force is almost transparent. You've got 11,000 students walking around. We don't see that presence, but you're telling me
community policing for the university has its own challenges, its own pause, search them and help our community find out what's going on.
Right. Well, I had no idea about that either.
Right.
Thank you so much. What goes on from the police standpoint? You're notified? There's an active shooter on campus. What procedures goes into effect?
Right. So this past year, we've done a lot of education with the community here at Dixie State to inform them about how the police department works. And it's not any different than anywhere in the county or in the state. If there's a dispatch center. And so it all goes into one centralized place.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And if we need additional staffing that Dixie State doesn't have on, they send additional resources from the city, from the county, until the situation's subsided. So going back to your concern, you brought up specifically active shooter.
Right.
And one of the issues that we want to address with the university is it's not just an active shooter. We call it a critical incident because active shooter pigeonholes that type of a violent episode into one specific episode. And a critical incident could be a number of things. It could be a vehicle going into a building where students are. It could be, a mentally episode of campuses. It's done through means where we can get that message out, make sure that our community sees it, understands it, and knows that that is the official stance of not only the police department, but the university when it comes to critical incidents.
Oh, that's great. Wow. A lot goes.
It does.
A lot goes on sites. A couple of ideas.
Right. So since my employment just over a year ago, this process with a legally defensible program called Lexipol. It's a policy and procedure software system that is written by the best attorneys in the field, and we worked with them over this past year and implemented roughly an 800-page policy and procedure manual for all of our police officers. That's been completed. It was presented to an outside agency look through our policies and procedures and the way we function and certified that they meet industry best practices. And that's done through accreditation, agency accreditation. So on top of the policy manual, which is heavily relied on for agency accreditation, you invite in the group that's doing the accreditation piece, and they review everything from whether you have your mission and value statements visible in your office to how you're functioning with your evidence property rooms in conjunction with best practices. And we decided that we would do that as soon as our policy was done. So that's just one small example of a point, but there's 168 points of proof. And they're going to come at the beginning of September, do a site visit to verify that we meet these points. And as soon as that's done, we anticipate being an accredited at the end of September.
Oh my, that's amazing. It's only been a year, a little over a year. You're doing a lot.
Lots of work, but it makes sense, and there's a reason why we're doing it.
Got it. Hey, I got a little bit of time. We got a lot, but would you do me a favor? Could you just mention the names of the officers that are under the Dixie State University?
Right.
Oh, well, in the air. Can you give them some recognition there?
I can, and they deserve a lot of recognition
Really?
with these changes that we've been talking about.
That's what I was referring to.
Each officer has taken on multiple roles and assignments that never existed before. So as I mention their names, I'll mention some of their
Please do. Please do.
collateral duties
Great.
and what they're there for. So
That's what I wanted.
from Summit County Sheriff's Office in Utah, which is Park City area. There he was the Major Crimes Detective Sergeant. And I knew Ron professionally from the time we worked in the Against Children Task Force with the Attorney General's Office and some of the work that we've done with the St. George City Police Department and another sheriff's office in the state. Josh is just a friendly, easygoing guy, and if you talk to him, bring up CrossFit because he loves CrossFit.
Okay.
Some of Josh's secondary duties and assignments on top of with Josh and other officers to clear out Kanoahi. So Officer Ola, if you see him and you see a big, strong Polynesian guy, just say Ola and he'll respond.
I got it.
Officer Ola has been awesome since my employment here, and he's been willing to take any assignment given. We have to rein him back a little bit because his current assignments outside of patrol include, he's the special events coordinator. So he worked with me for the past year, and now he's taken over all special events planning, staffing, and he works directly with UMAC and the events staff like Megan Church daily, if not weekly, to get proper staffing and proper plans in place for every special event on campus. It's a huge task.
It really is, because the activities are really picking up.
They are.
And
tonight's
wow.
the foam dance, and he's worked with them hand in hand for weeks preparing.
Wow.
So that task alone is huge, but on top of it, he's also in charge of department training. He's the training coordinator. He's the lead field training officer for new hires. And the list, some of his secondary assignments, neighborhood, quite a ways away. Officer Wands reached out and offered our services, even though it's off the campus, because I'll get into jurisdiction a little later, but we have a great relationship, and St. George allows us to serve our community, and that includes students off campus.
Right.
So that's some of his roles and assignments. He's currently a field training officer as well. He just became certified in that. Next to him, or after Officer Juan, is our newest officer, Michaela Vega. She is in the...
Fantastic. That's great to have.
Those are our officers right now.
That is great. What a great... Well, look at all the experience you've got on board, and it's amazing. And then for them to not only do their primary, but all this collateral responsibilities also.
There's a lot asked.
I am so glad you brought all that out, because I don't think a lot of people here at Dixie State really understand how sophisticated the police force has become.
With St. George City, I've met with their chiefs and their administration and their line level guys many times, and we've done a lot together. We've trained together. We've done a number of things that they allow us to best serve our students as we're able to. So if there's a student involved in violent crime, the victim of a crime, as to who investigates the case.
Amazing.
So moving back to the federal obligations in the Jean Cleary Act, every year there's a fire and safety report that's mandated by federal law. And if you go to our website, you can pull up the required 5 years worth of crime stats, and it's called the fire and safety report for the year. And those are on our website. Those are required. But in that federal law, we have to maintain all the records and all of the crime for all university property. So our officers will go up to Springdale to the O.C. Tanner complex just outside of Zion's National Park.
That's right.
For events up there. We're responsible. We have a campus in Hurricane.
Right. And
we have the main campus, and we have other university interests that we are responsible for, and we have an obligation to protect. Part of this...
Listen, we've public safety concerns, so we're going to tap his knowledge base on that other hat he wears here for Dixie State University. So we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. This is Tips, Topics, Issues, and Positions, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Bob Oxley with Tips, and our guest speaker today is Chief of Police Blair Barfuss. And we break. You're doing a lot of work. My curiosity, as being one of the faculty members here, you're interfacing with the administration. What's their take on some of your ideas, your plans, and as far as public safety and the police department in general? Are you getting a positive feedback from them? Or?
Yeah, Bob, I have to tell you that upon being hired, and the hiring process alone was a great experience, I learned from that process how important public safety is to Dixie State's administration. But since coming here, the administration has been completely supportive of everything that's being asked of them. And there's a lot being asked of them.
I bet you.
When I get questions and concerns, I turn around and take those to administration. And those often come with discussions about staffing, discussions about funding additional staffing positions. And the university administration, President Williams and General Counsel Duajo Hicks, I work with them all the time. And I have to tell the community and those listening that they have been fantastic.
That's good news.
It's great news. And the availability, discussion, and the communication levels were not anticipated. It's not something I've typically experienced in my past professional. President Williams and his staff are completely supportive of public safety. They do know that as we're growing, more is asked of them, and we have ongoing communications to the point where I have a monthly discussion with President Williams, just one-on-one.
That's fantastic.
And we know he's a busy man, so that's obviously important to get that kind of time.
That's right. And so that's good news. We've got a positive outlook as far as your operations concerned moving forward. And
Right.
There's an open line of communication
There is.
on a monthly basis. Anything else you want to touch base on before we move on to some other aspects of public safety here at Dixie State?
Sure. I can address one of the biggest questions and one of the biggest incidents because it's here in state. It's at University of Utah, and it's the Lauren McCluskey case where, unfortunately, a student who had a lot of promise and opportunity state, because if we didn't, that would be negligent on our part. So I looked at the report, the first report that's come out. They haven't come out with the second final piece, but the recommendations that were made were things that we've already either implemented, been working on, or it created discussion and conversation with groups of people that needed to happen.
Right.
For example, one of the big parts of the community that had information but weren't communicating because time off schedules, and it was difficult to get housing in touch with they call it their BIT team. We call it a care team, where we address students in crisis or problems and how we can best serve that student. So it opened up the lines of communication with the police department and housing here at Dixie State. It's Seth Gubler, who I provided a copy of that report to. He read it. We've met, we've talked. We have future plans to increase our communication to the point where sharing his information from housing with us in a direct communication.
I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure the listeners are like, they had no idea the sophistication of your operation here at Dixie State University. So that's great. I'd like to move on. Now I want to put you on your direct.
We vacated the testing center. We called because people were receiving multiple.
Involved with that, or do you have other people helping with that? Or
So parking services is not under the police department here at Dixie State, and our officers not go out and do parking tickets. For parking duties and assignments fall under a week of school, and he was president. So, for example, the Dove Center, which handles domestic violence here in the county and provides services to victims of domestic violence, we have assigned MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding, with them that we will do the LAP, or Lethality Assessment Protocol program, domestic violence, the seriousness of the issue and the situation that they're in. And so we've signed agreements, legal binding contracts with these resources like the Dove Center to provide services to our community and to do it right. It's not a scary thing to sign an agreement when it means you're doing the right thing. So those resources come from the Dove Center, and they're a great resource for victims of domestic violence. And we want people to find answers to questions they have relatively easily. So we've put them under the resources tab. Not gender, neutral, because that's not their information. They're not pointing you to a company.
I got it. Okay, good. So under one of your tabs on the site, it says security.
Right.
Well, I feel very secure after talking with you today. But what does that refer to?
So security, the reason why we have a Department of Public Safety is because it's an umbrella of two different functions. We have the police function, which is my primary role as the police chief to handle the legal police department that enforces law and crime. The other side is the security aspect. Security individuals are not armed. They're not going to take any action. The security function provides services to the university, and those services include, when somebody leaves their keys in their office and can't get in. So we will unlock doors. We'll provide escorts to individuals later in the evening if they feel unsafe walking to their car. Security personnel will unlock cars if their keys are locked in cars. We require a waiver be signed, and we do a report on it because that's needed, but they will jumpstart vehicles with jumpstart packs, and they provide the services to the campus in a security aspect that doesn't involve law enforcement or need a police officer.
Got it.
So there's two different services that are umbrellaed.
But this is all under this is part of your Director of Public Safety.
Right.
Right. It just says records.
Right.
You have a lot of records. And
We do.
Now, this is under public safety. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. What
The crime logs and other materials. So it's a huge aspect.
just for clarity, the police department we've gone through responsibilities. We're seeing all in population standpoint and the community itself, St. George community with that projection.
Right.
Your job is going to become even more complex, I would think, in the future, but you certainly are laying a great foundation. What do you see for yourself and your become a reality?
Right.
Where do you see that both of those
Numbers for growth for officers, but it does address growth in there. The actual numbers and the plans of everything, those have been discussed, and they are being made available to university administration. So
has given to us today? And I had a number of questions came in from our listeners, and you have done an outstanding audience. We definitely have a very sophisticated operation here at Dixie State University that's working in conjunction with the state. We're working on that.